Hey everybody, today's Decisions Lunch and Learn. You've got me as your host, Morgan Russell, they, them pronouns on the solutions engineering team here at Decisions. Been at Decisions a little over 2.5 years. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if we have any. So as usual, you can raise your hand and we can turn you off from mute to answer that question, or you can type it into the chat as well, and we can answer it from there. If we don't have any questions, I can open up my local environment and show us some stuff in there. I've got it on 8.5 right now. So soon to upgrade to the recently released 8.6, which is very exciting. So I'll go ahead and move over to my local environment. It's right here for us in my beautiful local here. Again, feel free to stop me if anybody has any questions. Raise your hand, you can come off mute, or you can type it into the chat. But if not, I'm just going to play in our sandbox and show off. I'm going to show off some of we have some recently released possibilities in the App Store. If you're on version 8 and up, you can download those. We have documentation up for them on our documentation site. I'll quickly navigate to that just to show us where it is, because if you don't know, it can be a little bit of a find. You go up to version 8 drop down where you can go to previous versions, and then you go to projects, and then down here to possibilities. So possibilities are kind of our like puzzle piece, little use case expansions that we're building out on the solutions engineering team, focusing both on fintech, so financial services, pain points, as well as cross industries. Right now, all that we have in the App Store is from financial services. So we have different loan calculators are the possibilities that we have in the App Store at the moment. And again, those are available as long as you got version 8 or higher. You can download these from your MyApps folder, and those will work for you. So if I go to MyApps right now, I've got a few of them already installed, like the amortization calculator. When you download these, they come with everything that you need to run it, including all our calculations, the unit tests, the forms. So I'm just going to show it off here by running our main flow, which has that primary tag on it. So amortization, I probably say it wrong because my brain's saying amortization is a little bit snippy, but that's maybe how you're supposed to say it. Ali, our product owner, would know better on that regard. But it's kind of where you're breaking down your loan and seeing how much you're going to be paying every single payment in interest and how much in principal. So say if I have a $300,000 mortgage with, I think Ali's go-to numbers here, with like a 4.5 interest rate, depending on the number of terms or payments you're doing in months. And then you could change if you have an existing loan and you want to see your past payments too, we could go ahead and put it in for a previous year. So say if I got this loan out in January of 2020, we can hit calculate there. And I'll say with this loan taken on that date, our total payback, including interest, is going to be that 557,000, some change there. And you can see that a lot of it was based off that interest, so it's the total interest plus your original loan amount shows you your total payback. We can make a change here to say, what if our interest rate was higher? What is that going to do to our cost there? So obviously higher interest, the more interest you're paying over time, more your total payback is. Hit the reset button, it clears out everything on this calculator. This is all made in, I think we were developing an 8.3 or 8.4 here, but in 8 and 7, you all have active form flows. So this was all done with active form flows. If we go to our view chart, this takes us to our next form, where we have a breakdown of it. We got a lot of years, so it's a little bit squished together there, but it's kind of a breakdown of those principal and interest payment over time. So your remaining balance, as you see as time goes on, is getting lower and lower. The amount you're paying in principal is going up, and interest is going down as you go further in time. So you have less on your remaining balance. If we go back and change this, say if you're not doing that amount of months, you're doing just half of it for 180. You can also view our chart there to see the difference a little bit nicer of less of that amount of years here. You can see again how our principal, the amount you're paying in principal towards actual amount of your loan balance is going up, and interest is going down over that time span. We have our last form in this calculator is the schedule. So it's a full breakdown. This is with a data grid here, an advanced data grid. So you can see a breakdown of year by year and month by month, how much that month you're paying in interest, how much you're paying in principal, and then how much your remaining balance is in that particular amount of time. So this is really useful for people to tell over that course of time, you know, how much would I actually spend in interest and how much do I spend in total there. So just want to show that one off. I haven't seen any questions come through, so if anybody has anything, feel free again to interrupt me there. Just showing you this one. We have a lot of other cool calculators, as you can see with their paired articles here. You can look at the amortization's actual article in here. Shows you where to get it, what's included in it. It's a really awesome breakdown. But you can see we also have 8 other calculators that are in the App Store, again, available if you have V8 up and up. But I guess I'll build something for funds. So let's go to, I just made a lunch and learn folder. Let me check just to confirm with everybody what version I'm on. Yeah, my local's on 8.5. I don't know, what's a fun thing to build? One thing I've been wanting to build, which is a magic 8-ball. I think that's just a fun use case to show off forms and active form flows. So I'll make my magic 8-ball below here, or it'll be the one to run our form. Just drag that up, and we're going to create a form here. And we're going to make a new one. I have a few templates. So I have my starting form template, which I think I will kick off from. Templates are great for a lot of things. If you've always got like kind of a standard how you want your forms to look, it's pretty easy to make them into a template. I name this our magic form. I can show you all that as well real quick. I'll close this out, but you can see since I used a template, it already came in with, you know, a label and the particular spacing down here on our button bar, particular columns, particular margins, so you don't have to set it up again. Just to show what that looks like in the actual folder view. If I close out of here. So this one isn't a template, but if we wanted to make, we're saying we're going to have a set of things that are themed, whatever this one exactly looks like, you can go on whatever form you want to make as a template, go to edit, and advanced, it's called make template. And then you say yes. And now when I actually go ahead and create a form and I pick a normal form, it'll show that template right there. We do have a question. Got applying custom CSS to the decisions forms. They appear normally while viewing on Android devices, but browsing on Safari on an iPhone. Disregards our CSS and displays default fonts only. How can we force Safari to use our custom CSS? I've not seen it fight with Safari, so that might be something particularly. I don't have a great answer for that one. Unfortunately, I haven't worked too much with looking at it on Safari. We can follow up on that one though. But if it's displaying normally, it's interesting on Android versus everything else. So what we could do there, I think that one's probably going to have to be answered with a support ticket there for you. Because we'll have to simulate that a little bit more. And it's displaying correctly in decisions, is that correct? As well as on Android devices. Yep, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I think I'm not able to answer that at this point of why on our Safari and iOS that's not being friends, but we can definitely look into that deeper as a support ticket. I can try and follow up with it as well, but I would definitely submit that as a support ticket. We can get that answered for you to work out that. It's interesting that it overrides it, but yeah, that's one we'll have to follow up on. Unless anybody else on the call. I know we have a few panelists here. If anybody else, I don't think anybody else has directly used that as well. So we'll get that answered for you as a follow-up there. So if I want to unmake this a template, we can go same place, edit, advance, and remove template maker. So that just takes it away from that option where the user can, when you're creating a form, pick it as a starting place. So I'm going to start off with a button on here. B2. This will just be our done button on our form. I think really the Magic 8, well, you're just going to be kind of providing a question. So we'll do our question box. And if you do Shift Enter on your form, it puts a label above it for you. So it's going to be our question box. I don't think we need an additional column, so we can edit our rows and columns pretty quickly here. So we can just tie it down to just our 200 column. And we'll probably not need as many rows either. Okay, cool. We got follow-up form question. Back this out and look at that. So we've got using a header container element. You pick the collapsible option, tiny arrow on the form. Appears as the gray block below it, swiftly on smartphones. If this symbol is not found on the device, fix that on our end. We have to have an image. I don't know how to share it over Zoom. Gotcha. Okay, so so does it do that little missing icon kind of shape there? So you can't see anything. I pull out a header container for us, but I've used them before, so I definitely know what you're talking about there. Header container, it's got that little collapsible arrow, right? Let's make this big. These contents custom bar. Tiny arrow that appears to the right. Signal appears to gray block on some devices. Gotcha. So it's saying it. They don't have that symbol. That might be built into the CSS because we actually can't change that here, right? As a part of the control. Background color, border color, font header. Yeah, the actual device itself, like that little icon, I don't think we can look at. Let me see when we run this, if we can take a look on it. So I'm going to close this out and run it in our form, in our flow, excuse me. So we can see that header container. If we got that little arrow. Nope, didn't like me. That's the right control, right? Yeah. Header container, use control, view. I see if I need to put a grid inside of that for us. Get on the inside of it. Oh, collapsible. Yeah. Is that in view or behavior? Search. Oh, there it is. So when yes, thank you. Okay, there we go. There's our little arrow. You definitely said right, and my brain was thinking left and looking at the left for it the whole time. Yeah, this little arrow. So when it doesn't find it, it is showing up as a gray block. Let me look. I know this is in the CSS itself, so I'm going to open up DevTools on the page. Let's look at that particular element. So using the selection, finding it here. Have our little icon. Where is it getting routed from? If it's not showing up there, it's most likely because it can't contact where the icon should be displaying. Trying to see if we can find where it is linked to. It's probably in default decisions. Here it is, the contact image icon there. Download .svg. So it's hooked up in the normal CSS of it. So you might be able to override that with CSS, like pointing it to another direction. So for your mobile view, it's looking at it somewhere else, it can find it. But by default, it's being shown here. So you'd have to change the actual CSS for it to find a different image if this one's not showing up on your mobile, wherever it's being hosted. So this is my machine, contact images, icons, chevron dark. So it's in the icons folder. Let me duplicate my tab here and go and check that out. Yeah, no problem. What you can do with icons too, yeah, because you can link it to wherever in the CSS by the document URL. So you could have it in a different folder in decisions and then get that document URL and put that in your CSS. If by default, it looks like that decisions environment one isn't showing up for you, but it's probably buried in, is in icon images. It might not even be in our custom images because that folder path looked like icons instead of this. Yeah. Yeah, I would test that out. But if not, I think that might be a follow-up on our, similarly with like that mobile issue there on your previous one for CSS, might be something like that there. Yeah, no problem. Let us know if that doesn't work for you, and we can take a look at it. Yeah, header containers are really cool. I actually hadn't used them until I think about last year, but I like them a lot as far as like having that default capability to quickly close little sections. It's very nice. So here, back to our use case. Those are very good questions. So I didn't have the best answers for them, but hopefully we get that worked out there through our support tickets. Our magic 8-ball, I've got a CSS I can apply here because the default button styling, we have a few DTs in there to change this, so it's not this very different style. But let me attach, I've got a CSS sheet. All those calculators that we showed off in the very beginning come with a CSS sheet as well. So if you ever want to use that same styling, which is kind of our default decision styling, it's the same styling that I'm putting right here for us. The form font, I like to do 16 so it's bigger. And then I like to bold our labels just for styling. Okay, cool. And we're gonna have a button here, maybe an image button to like ask our image button to have our magic 8-ball. I wonder if we have an icon for it. I would guess not, but maybe a magic one. Yeah. Very big. So we'll have our button there. This will actually kick off the flow that we're going to make for an active form flow to go on and get the result for our magic 8-ball. And then we're going to need a location to actually show what the magic 8-ball said. So you could do it with the label, HTML display, rich text display. Let's do a rich text display. You could style it a little bit more. So we'll have a rich text display to the side. So this will be magic 8 result. Let's do just enter there, and I'll bold that as well. Okay, so onto the flow of it. Gonna add, we put a title on our form, so it'll be ask magic 8-ball. And now we're gonna go and add an active form flow. So this will be get answer magic 8-ball. And it's gonna get kicked off. Oh, maybe it's a real button and not that. I'll come back and add a trigger there because I think my image button is an output button and I wanted it to be an event button instead. So I'll change that so we can actually get a trigger of it. Okay, cool. So for active form flows, by default, they show up as this rule flow name, which can get, it's not as nice. What I like to do naming convention wise to the brackets and the AFF for active form flow. In your actual folder view, they're going to be hidden. So this helps me know if I'm looking at my hidden items in a folder, that that's an active form flow and not, like a history folder or a unit test. So I like to name it that way, name it the same thing that I've kind of named it in my form. So I just copy and move that over. Okay, so in this actual form, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. In order to actually save your active form flows that first time, you have to have no issues or validation issues, so you can't have anything unmapped. So right now I know what I'm going to make in here is a truth table of some sort and like get random. Actually, I might just keep get random item from list because it'll just be a random item for what we're resulting from our value. But whatever we get is that result. So I can make it as a subflow. So this will be, and when you do that, when you make a subflow inside your active form flow, that's the best practice to do it because then you can actually have a unit test on here on your subflow, all the logic. Anything you need to actually do like set values on a form, you can do outside of your main logic that's going on inside your active form flow because you don't really need a unit test to verify that you're setting a control value. You need a unit test to verify the logic you got to get that value, excuse me. And then since we're just setting one element, I'm just going to use the form rules set control value. Yep. So they're going to get generated in the, yep. Sometimes they'll get in the other folder. We do have a DT for that. I believe it's coming out in 8.7 potentially. But the best way you can check is that they always get created the folder that you were like actively looking at when you opened up something. So if we're looking where we are right now, I was inside like the main place I was in my folder. Sorry, let me close out this whole thing here. The main place I was when we got there was in this folder. So like I came in here and that's where I was building. So that's where my active form flow is going to be. So if I go to folder view, I can check that and, switch to hidden. It should be right there. Definitely I've seen it happen where you're on your MyApps folder because that's usually the default home folder. And if you search something up, because we know we got a lot of flows, and I search up my Magic 8-Ball, and then I go to my form from there, and I break my lock, and then I build a, I'll close it over here. Oops. If I close it over here, it's not going to be happy. We'll build the subflow after. But if I open it from that search place, and then go directly into the form from there, I'll show it all the way of like what we're talking here. Yeah. Okay. So just to reiterate what we're looking at, we're starting our day, we're developing. Usually MyApps or whatever your home folder is where you're going to start. Particularly what form or flow you're looking at. If you go from here and like search that flow, Magic 8-Ball, or search the form, either way, and then start immediately building into it. Now, if I create an active form flow, which we'll do to show it, it's going to create it in that folder that we opened the element. So it's the folder that the current user was on, where it creates it. We do have a DT in for this. They're working on it. I think it might come out in the next release or 2 of 8. But if you're not planning on upgrading immediately with that and such, it's just good to be aware that this is currently how it's going on. So, oh look, it didn't even save my other one. That's okay. So if I create it here, and then go ahead and name this one test AFF, and just hook that up there. We wanted to connect those. Save and close. Maybe it is fixed. Hold on. I might be in the version that it's already fixed. That would be amazing, but we can tell when we close out of here. And then anytime, you can find hidden items by going folder view and then changing the actual little report down here to show with hidden. It's going to be a lot in here because should be. Okay, look, it did it. So I guess in version, I'm in 8.5, it's fixed. So that might have just came out then. It was one of the DTs we submitted on our team. So in 8.5, it looks like that is fixed. So now we'll be able to tell if it's fixed. We go back to our other folder, which we are building in my lunch and learn folder. If we can see that new one is also made in here. And again, we go to change that report type to be with hidden. Yep. Okay, perfect. So 8.5, it's fixed. I would have to check to see if that's the newest version of 8 that was fixed in, but at least so we know at 8.6 and forward, you're good there. So you don't have to worry about what folder you're opening up, but that's in previous ones where that wasn't fixed. That was the issue there. There's a way to change the default location. Yeah, no, but just wherever you're looking at. So if I was building in, say, our graded no code review folder, and I search up something else, it's going to drop it in here in versions prior. 8.5 forward, we know now that it's fixed, so it goes into the parent elements folder. So this one, when we're working in that lunch and learn item, that Magic 8-Balls form, even though we started somewhere else, it put it in here. So that is a good improvement of a DT actually is all the way done. So that makes it really nice. And definitely more convenient, because I've had that same issue where, you know, obviously if it doesn't get created in that same folder, you know, it might not get attached to the project correctly, and exporting, pushing things to repo, yeah, can be less fun. So let's go ahead and switch this out, even though I love this icon, Magic Wand one. I made it an outcome button instead of what I actually want it to be, which is an event button. So let me swap that to be an event button. And we'll do an event image. And we're picking our image. You can always do from file as well as you can add your custom images to the custom images folder. That's down in your settings, then designer, and images folder. You can add SVGs in there. But if you want PNGs and other things, any other file type, custom images only likes SVGs. That's the only one it supports. So if you notice, all the other ones here, they're all SVGs. That is in the decisions icon library. But from file or from URL, you can pull in a document or PNG of some other type. Let's do my image one again from Magic. I did like that one. Change the color. Magic 8 balls are black, but green. Oh, no, that doesn't look as good. I'll keep it classic. Okay, cool. So now it is an event image. Alt text means if the image doesn't load, what it's going to show. Hopefully the image loads, but if not, I'll write the word Magic 8 ball for us. With active form flows, I try to go back and actually rename or provide a little bit of a better name for the controls, since that's what you're going to be interacting with in that form data. So this will be Magic 8 ball event image button. Periodically saving, because just a good habit. Let's scroll all the way down. So test is the only one got saved. So it's fine. We'll we'll fix this one. I might have it in my handy dandy clipboard of what I named that flow. Get answer from Magic 8 ball. Perfect. So we'll change this to the name we wanted. Since we didn't actually get back to that main like save form on the form, our other active form flow did not actually get stored. So we're changing that here. All right, so we know what we're going to do in here is just do something to get whatever text we want from the Magic 8 ball, and we're then going to display it on the form. Like I was saying, form rules. It's got all the steps of like interacting with your stuff, clearing, you know, all the validations, particular validations, completely exiting the form. Get control value, you don't super need, because it's all available in your you know, your form data. All the controls from your form is in there. Hiding multiple controls. If you have to hide even one control, my general go-to is to use the multiple ones, because if you ever need to then upgrade it to it's already a list, and you don't have to swap out your steps. Same thing with show control. But to set a particular control, this one does just one value. If you have a lot of fields on your form and a lot of data you're manipulating at once, you can use just a regular create data step and get the same function of this with as many properties as you had. So if I had 4 or 5 fields I wanted to set, like first name, last name, whatever, you could come in here and provide those. So for ours, it's going to be Magic 8. I think we named it result, not request. Result string. And it can be whatever type you're needing, whatever type you're updating. Excuse me, my cat is trying to get on my keyboard. All right, so we'll close that up. And in order to get it to update like this step would normally do, like you pick the control and then you say what you want that value to be. Instead of doing that, what you can do on here is just whatever you're passing it to be. So once we get our subflow and get like, say it's saying not this time will be our default test right now for what we want our Magic 8-Ball to say. Not this time. And on the output, instead of just leaving it as rename, which what it defaults to, we're going to do change value. So change value, and then you pick your data from your form data. So in our rich text display, I might actually have to make it HTML to get it to display nicely on this, but you pick into rich text display and select the value. So we're updating the value of the text of our rich text display. And we'll just save that and show it. We're going to also make our actual little subflow to actually give this dynamically. But for now, let's see if that displays correctly. I think I might have to pass in HTML text, since this is, rich text, shows like bolded and your color things there. Now that we've added inputs on here, it's going to ask us for them. That tells me I need to take off that colon. This is ignore. This is ignore. The question here doesn't super matter, but the concept, you would provide a question before being allowed to hit this. So if I hit this, oh no, I'm in edit. Let me debug. There we go. Did I save my active form flow? It's not showing in the results here. Test. Oh, you know what? I don't think I set a trigger on it. Yeah, so it was not triggered there. So that's important. If we wanted it to run at startup saying it already got a prediction or something like that, you could do this. For some things like calculations on that big amortization calculator we're looking at earlier, we use something where it's, run for a particular outcome, meaning the whatever thing you're interacting with. So this is your active form flow. For our calculation active form flow, we want it to also run on the look at the chart button. So we have it run for our view chart outcome on that. So that's where it's like updating data one last time before it gets exited. So if your active form flow is ever passing data out of your form, sometimes in particular use cases, running it on an outcome. So whatever button they click can also be useful there. Okay, so that'll help. So right now I just want to test to see if I need to pass in it to be HTML text to show that. Oh, why? That'll be sad for me today. We saved it, I believe. Nope. I did all that talking, didn't save it. Okay, we're hitting okay. Updated the name of it. I'm hitting save. And we're closing it and we're gonna run it. Okay, great. Okay, it shows up. It's just not beautiful. If I wanted to center it and do other things, I could pass an actual HTML there and get it to bold or change color and look nicer there, since this is a rich text display. But that's good that it doesn't need it to be as an input there. Okay, so we know that that's constant. We can see if I click it multiple times, we have the active form flow running on the side. Also, that naming convention helps me, at least when I'm looking at it here, like, what happened? What is that? It's the active form flow, and we can look at that version of it. So you can see that that's that change value allowed us to update that there. So we got a lot of them. We could do that, just that create data step to change the value on it. So let's go ahead and now build our subflow to actually get a random Magic 8-Ball prediction. So that's going to be creating our flow. So random prediction. And you could do this however you want it. Spelling prediction is useful for it. Not one of my skill sets. I went to school for STEM, and I would always say the E in STEM is not for English, because I have the worst spelling sense possible. All right, so for here, we want to get a random item from list. That's a subflow I've made a lot. So you'd send in a list and just get a random item from it. So let's start out with our random int step. After I pick my, oh yeah, I like the one with max and min. Usually it's helpful. let's go ahead and set up our inputs. So the way I'm thinking about it is I'm going to send in a list of predictions. I want to get a random one from that list. I want to make this dynamic so I could use it somewhere else. So I'm going to just send in a list of strings, generically named, so I could use it potentially anywhere else. If we wanted to specifically name it for this would be like, prediction list, or prompt list. And that's it. We really just want to get one item from that list. So that's all we're sending in is that. And what we want to send out is just that actual result. So we're going to start by getting a random item. First, the random int from it. So for int in the index, we know it's starts at 0. So we can have our minimum be 0, and our max is going to be the actual, it'll be the count of the list plus 1. So let's do one math step ahead of that, because the count doesn't take into account index. So we'll do an add step here. I'm just going to be under data if we don't want to search it. Data and then numbers, I believe. Yep. We have our add step. And so we're always going to be adding our count of our list plus a constant value of 1 just to get the index of that last item. So this will be last item index. And we'll rename it. So it'll be add 1 to count for last item index. Perfect. Now I want to save. So I want that to go away. All right, so we got that. So now we know that that's going to be our max. I could have named it max, I suppose. So we'll map that in, last item index. So now we're randomly generating a number between 0 and the index of the last element we sent into this list. And now that we have this output here, it's going to be the random items index. So now we have a random index of that particular list we sent in. So now we can do a get item by index step to get a random item from that list we're sending in. Let me fix this. So this is get random int. Random, this will be random. I'm going to call it random index with max and min. Or random item. Okay, so now we know the index is going to be that random index that we just found here. And then our list is going to be that string list. So we're getting a random item from that particular index from that. And then our list item is our output. So this will be get, I'll just rename our step quick, get random item by index. And that's our outcome over here is our random item. Oh no, I named it list item. Let's name it random item. Random list item. Again, this is just for strings because that's what we're passing in is a list of strings, but that's a lot of times what we're using for lists of things here. So this will be random list item. Perfect. Now I can check that one off because we want that to come off. It's random list item. And we can save that. If we wanted to be 100%, we can make a unit test here. Actually, yeah, let's make a unit test. I'm a big fan of them. So this will be a magic 8-ball test. Prediction. Okay. We're going to do constant because we don't need to populate this data from flow. A nice use case for the from flow data is things where you have maybe user actions or things that take an ID as an input. So whatever your entity ID, like it's dynamic and changes. So your data can clear, that record might not be there. You don't want to have a unit test saved as a constant ID. So that one would be a good use case for doing it, your data source from Flow. So you can fetch, test data to run it through. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Not this time. I know for lists, you have to go enter down. I don't remember any of the positive magic 8-ball numbers. I know, like try again. There's one. Well, let's do like absolutely. So never. Cool. Okay, so that's our list. I'm gonna save it. So now we have our unit test created. In order to actually have it count as a unit test, you got to make your evaluation rule, which is what's gonna get checked out at the very end. What I want to check here, because I don't care what item it is, I just want to make sure it is an item. So I'm gonna say on the output done, this item. So on that end step there, I just want it to exist. I want it to be there. So that'll be my evaluation rule. So we'll save that. And hit save here for good measure. And we can run it. So let's see what we got. It went all the way through. Did our unit test passed? We got not this time. Let's see if it worked. So we add our count to our index. It looks like it worked as planned, but I like to go check. So we had 5 items, added 6, got a random item, got 0 was our random item. And the item of 0 was correctly not this time. Let's run it again for fun, see if, make sure we're getting, a different result there as our prediction. Never. Okay, very cool. And I think never was last. Oh, okay, never was the third. So 1. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1. Oh, you know what? I think this has to be subtract, not add 1, right? No. Yeah. Because we start, our list counts at 0. So if we're thinking of I always get my brain on indexes. Okay. So our list is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our max for our index should be 1 minus that. So let's actually swap that. So instead of it being added 1 to the counter, we'll want it to be subtract. We just happen to have it work each time because otherwise, if we had pulled in, this would have been index 6 and there's not there, this would have errored out on us. So let me get our subtract step, data, numbers. Subtract. Can I do it? Will it be friends with me if I pull it there? So I just dragged it over it to hope that it would do it. I don't know if it did. It looks like it did. But I'll drag it out instead. I'll just yoink the name of it. And then make sure I grab the name of that so I don't have to rematch that out. And we'll get rid of that step for us. That was my bad on that. That makes more sense though. Okay, so the from value here, we're subtracting blank from it. So we're subtracting from is our list count. So we're subtracting 1 from that. Yeah. So subtract 1, updating it to be this. Okay, let's try that. And now since we've already made our unit test, we can just run it and see if it gets this. Not this time exists. Let's run it again and see if we're getting something else. So now our new max should be 4, so which is 1 minus it because we go 0 to 4. So it's still 5 options for our index, but index starts at 0. Okay, perfect. So this is doing what we want. Now what we can do here is go back into our form. and into our active form flow. You can also open it from, like the hidden element thing on the folder view, but just to get here, excuse me, the normal way. And now we're going to pull in that subflow. And I can pick existing, recent, random prediction. Is that the right form? Yeah, string list. Okay, well, I didn't name it generically, but I built it generically. And let me actually go back into that flow and just yoink out my list that I sent in here, because I cannot think of any other options at this point. I know there's a ton. I could Google it, but for right now, we'll just send in our constant list. So this is, if you wanted this to be sourced from somewhere else, you could pull it in from data somewhere else, anything there. And then it's outputting our list item. So now we're getting that random part here, and that logic is subflowed so that we can unit test it. Now the result of it, we're going to pass into here. We're going to get rid of first name from that use case. Instead of it being constant, now this can be pulled here from our random list item. And again, it's still doing that change value on our form data. I'm going to rename this to be set result to random prediction. It's not going to look cute because I didn't style it nice with HTML or anything, but it should show up for us. Save, save. All right, and now our run Magic 8-Ball flow should have everything it needs, except to being very long at this point. Not the most stylish Magic 8-Ball, but it'll do it. And I'll run that, say if a question, say, will I eat after this call? Have lunch after this call. Let's see. Not this time. Sorry, not this time, lunch and learn. So that's ours. Let's get another random prediction. Let's see. Let's say, will you have lunch after? You, the audience. You the audience, absolutely. So that's our rough time. We got about 5 minutes. If anybody has any questions, I know we had a few with that CSS that we're going to follow up on with some support tickets, see if we can get that resolved for you on working with, I think it was Safari browser there. And I love debuggers, so we can beautifully check in and look at what was going on there and see our subflow there of our logic. So
what a fun use.
Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, this is one that I've been like, if I ever need to do one again, Magic 8-Ball, I just want to do it.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And again, this flow, even though I named it random prediction, you can use it for anything. You can get random item from list. So a lot of time I'll use this sort of flow because I've built it a few times to do with like test data. So if I'm building a like randomly generate sample data flow and I need just something to be a choice here, I'll just drag this one in and you can have it populate your data. So this is get random item from list. All right. Well, y'all enjoy your future predicted lunches that the Magic 8-Ball said you'll have. I will not enjoy mine because it said not this time for me. So maybe next time. But y'all enjoy the rest of your Thursday and rest of your week. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye.